Um, well, what we find when it comes to PPC strategy and PPC just frequently asked questions in general, it comes down to four main complaints or four main just frequently asked questions in general. Those four questions are that your PPC ads have been running, but they aren't getting enough impressions. Your PPC ads are getting a lot of impressions, but no clicks. Your campaigns are spending a lot of money or in a lot of clicks, but you're not getting a lot of calls, emails, or e-commerce sales. And that your ads are bringing in a lot of calls and emails, but nothing of value. You're getting a lot of salesy emails and scams. David, would you agree that those are kind of the four things that we hear a lot?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from the side of business development and trying to help new people and sort through what they have going on, that's pretty much the gamut of what I see frequently. People ultimately they want to get clicks, right? But they want it to go somewhere. And if they're getting conversations, they're hoping it's going to be people that are the right kind of fit, right? Whether it's and I'm talking about picking clients and stuff. Not necessarily about like just buy this product or whatever, but yeah, if it's not aligned and you're having conversations with people that just can't afford what they do or not even the right kind of fit for the product, yeah, people wonder, is this even worth doing? Should I be spending money on pay-per-click advertising?
Yeah, if we wanted a bunch of clicks that go to nowhere, we could just put a bunch of links on Craigslist or something.
It still works. I mean, there's still people out there using Craigslist every day, so it's definitely a viable strategy. But with everything with advertising, right? It's the right strategy, for the right
Exactly.
goals, to fit your constraints, right?
And that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. Like I mentioned earlier, PPC by rule, we pay for it. We pay per click, so we want those clicks to be as beneficial as possible. But we also want to have those clicks. We want them to come in. There's a reason why we put in the effort. There's a reason why we pay. And so that's what we're going to be talking more about today. So the first question is, like we mentioned earlier, the PPC ads have been running, but they are not getting enough impressions. This is one that we hear a lot. This is one that we also sometimes experience with new campaigns in general. David, when that happens, what would you think would be causing that, just intuitively?
Well, I must think, and I try not to like get too deep in the weeds because there's a lot of different things that could impact that. But I often think, is there anybody even searching for the kind of keywords that your ads are targeting for, right? I mean, you could have something like an ad you want for, of course, anytime you're trying to think of an example, something, then your mind blanks. You can't get it
Right,
right.
always
So,
go with pizza.
all right, pizza. Sarah loves pizza. Everybody loves pizza. Um, let's go with the stuffed crust pizza. So, like, you could be like pizza store pepperoni pizza Denver. But it was one of the keywords you used before, right? We talked the
Exactly.
previous one about robotic keywords. That was a great show we did that time. So yeah, you could have some kind of keyword, right? That's really hyper specific, and it's like, best Chicago style pizza joint in Denver with pepperoni as a special free topping, right?
That's
Somebody
one
might
keyword.
that could be one keyword, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Google might think it's a bunch of keywords or something, but it's like something super long tail is the term we use, right? Like it's a very long keyword, very specific. People are getting something that's very detailed. There could be maybe Google would probably say 1 to 10 people monthly, right? Probably in the whole United States would use that keyword. And, you're sitting around waiting for somebody to get that. Well, you're getting no impressions on your ad. What is an impression, right? An impression is somebody sees it.
Somebody,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's a thing that I think about, like, what are the keywords set up for?
Yeah, relevancy is definitely a huge piece in it. If you have just a few keywords and they're long-tailed, exact match, or even just long-tailed in general, Google may be like, what is this? What are you selling? Especially if your landing page kind of mirrors that. In addition to that, if you have those shorter keywords or there's more high volume keywords, but your bids aren't high enough, that may be another thing where Google's like, well, you're not taking this seriously. We're not going to show this ad for this keyword. We talked a little bit earlier about how sometimes if you have very low bids on certain keywords, it'll show sometimes at the very end of your day. Like how sometimes you may get a few impressions at like 6 p.m. and then your ads shut off at 6:30. And that can happen. But in order for your ads to be as profitable as possible and as widespread as possible, make sure that your bids are comparable. And Google offers you insight on that as well. So that's very important. If you think, oh, I'm going to save a little money and keep my bids very, very low, that may be just in general why you're not getting enough impressions to begin with.
Well, a lot of folks probably don't realize when they're new to the idea of pay-per-click advertising, and pay-per-click, that's what we mean when we say PPC, you're paying for each click. It is a competitive activity. You know, these ads get placed in certain ranking and order, and or even show at all based on various factors. So whether it's Google or Bing, and pay-per-click advertising even applies to social media networks too. They also use often auction-based systems, and essentially there's this algorithm that if we use Google as an example, your ad rank, which is going to turn into like your position in your ad. So like the first page of search results, you might have a few ads at the top. It's a lot more nowadays than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether you show up in the top ad or maybe an ad at the bottom of that page is dependent on your ad rank, and your ad rank is dependent on your bid that you put for that keyword. So whether you bid $3 or $20 or whatever, and certainly the quality score, which is something we can talk about another day, but that factors in a lot of relevance factors. And if other people decide, hey, I want to pay a lot for this keyword. I'm a high roller. I want to make sure I get all this business. That is how it goes. If you got really high quality scores, you can kind of offset that and you can still compete. That's a nice thing there. But, if you're out competed in that kind of realm, you're going to be pushed lower down in priority. You may not get your ads seen as much. And, something you just touched on, Sarah, which I think is so fascinating to me is the time of day, right? So other people might be only having their ads show a certain time of day, maybe when they have salespeople online to take calls or something. So there's all these factors, and that really feeds into the competitive side of it. So when there's less competition, it takes less of a bid or cost or quality to be up high. When there's a lot of competition, well, you gotta try and compete.
Yeah, and similarly to that, in the exact same realm is your budget for the day. I heard a story about someone who had a law office in an area where there were so many other law offices, and they had a budget of $20 a day, and each average bid was higher than $20 a day. So they're trying to make it work with a daily budget with that campaign lower than the average bid. So as far as getting impressions at that point, there's no reason to show anyone your ad if it's going to cost you more than your daily budget if they click on it in the first place. So bids, budget, relevancy, and yeah, that's really what would cause not enough
So
impressions.
simple, right?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious once you look at it. But it's also when you're in the middle of it and you're trying to make those ads work, you can kind of get blind to that stuff. Let's move on to the next one then. If your ads are getting a lot of impressions but no clicks, that's another one. So again, intuitively, what would you think might be causing that, David?
I feel your ads when you're in kind of the digital marketing space, so online ads, Google ads, search ads, that kind of thing, they've got to be intriguing to catch somebody's attention, make them think maybe, or maybe not think, make them click. Have that kind of quick kind of alignment to a pain point or something that really matters to that target audience customer. And if you don't really pull that off with your ads, it doesn't really speak to them. I mean, people aren't going to click on it, right? I mean, you're going to get the odd occasion where somebody's like, maybe a former employer or maybe a competing business, and they see, oh, there's so and so's ad. I'm going to click on them and cost them money, right? I mean, nobody does that, right? But it really comes down to, I think a lot of times, you might get a lot of impressions, but if it's not really lining up, or it could be this scenario that, if you're not ranking high, you're up there. So people are technically, it's an impression because they should be able to see it, but they may not notice it very strongly. Maybe you're like third down, or maybe it's on the side or something. I mean, that could factor into it
Oh,
too.
that's actually a good point. I was going to say that not having captivating enough ad copy, like you were saying, might be the only thing causing that. But you're right. If either you have a display ad that's very small and like an odd part of the screen, or if your text ad is showing in like a sidebar down at the bottom, that would also maybe be a culprit. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, I would say that's probably even a result of a low bid. Like it may be, okay, we'll show your ad, but we're going to show it in a place where nobody's going to see it because you're not offering enough in order to do that. That's interesting. Um, but I think for the most part, it's about captivating content. And one way to really improve your content and make it more captivating is by checking out competitor ads, seeing what they're doing. Um, if someone has gone through the trouble to create these like really cool, captivating ads, we've mentioned before, there's really no shame in like seeing what a competitor is doing and altering a little bit to make it fit your company and your campaign.
Sometimes you don't even get a choice, do you? You might, Google your own company and you'll see ads show up, if you're not capturing your own brand searches, which something everybody should consider. But, you might see other companies have ads showing up on a page where you're searching for your own company brand name. That's never fun to see. But, then you can see right away, like, hey, so what are they talking about? But, there's a lot of great tools out there to get a sense for what other companies are doing. We use a lot of them. We don't have any kind of sponsorship for this, but tools like SEM Rush or SpyFu. We'll put some links to those in the show notes. Those are great, but something people more involved on the social media side definitely be aware of the fact that Facebook and their efforts to be very transparent. Well, the Facebook, right? It's great. They have the Facebook ads library, so you can actually search to see the ads that are running for anybody that's running ads on Facebook at the moment, right? So that's a really neat way to see what other people are doing, get some ideas, but also maybe a little bit of competitor research, right? So we know that the pay-per-click advertising space is a competition. Knowing what the competition is doing and how they're positioning themselves can really give you a leg up.
Yeah, it's easy to say like, oh, my competitors, it's so different. We don't want to do what they're doing. But never underestimate competitor research. It's so important. Um, well, awesome. I think we covered that one for the most part. Let's move on to the next one. Campaigns are spending a lot of money and getting a lot of clicks, but not really getting any calls, emails, or sales. Intuitively, David, what would you think might be causing that?
So in this kind of scenario, it would seem that you're getting the impressions, you're getting your ads in front of people. So good job there. And then they're clicking your ads. So there's got to be some kind of alignment to what they're searching for, what their problem is, what they need help with, what you're trying to buy. But then what do they do when they click, right? Then they're sent to probably your website. There are some additional kind of really neat for Google, for instance, like extensions for kind of lead gen forms based in the ads and that sort of thing. And even ones for just calling straight from the ad. But probably the most typical scenario we see is people take that click traffic and send it to their website, to a specialized landing page, hopefully, in order to drive some action that they want, a goal, like you put there, call, submit a web form or an email to say, hey, can you help me with this? But here's the thing, if that's not really set up very well, so maybe there isn't a specialized landing page, the people who are trying to get some help, they might get on your website. If it's not organized very well, it's not structured to guiding them through the process to get in touch with you, they might not know what to do next. They might get there, even worst case scenarios, they might get there and think, wow, so this is nothing like what that ad was suggesting. I don't know if I should be on this website. Maybe I'll go look somewhere else. And you see that sometimes, bouncing and exit rates on websites and stuff like that. That really speaks to my side of conversion optimization. You want people to click and then take that conversion goal. Probably landing page. Worst case,
Yeah,
no landing page at all.
one of the biggest mistakes you can make with ads is to send everything to your homepage. And I've actually seen that a lot where all the ads go to the homepage. And that's not really on target with, especially if your ads target different services or different types of ad groups. Sending everything to one page or one sales page or your contact page, it can often result in like a high drop-off rate or a high spend rate and not a whole lot of conversions. So that's exactly right. In the same respect, if you do have custom landing pages and people aren't really doing a whole lot with them. They get there, they see it, and then they leave. It could be just that the flow of action on that page, the calls to action, they're not very clear. Or it could just be that your landing page isn't really in line with your ads to begin with. So there is a lot to be said for creating custom landing pages based on what your ads say. And then once they get there, kind of making it very clear to the website user what to do next. We want you to call us. We want you to submit a contact form. We want you to go and add stuff to your cart and buy it. I mean, it could be pretty obvious that if that's happening, based on like the drop-off rate or the bounce rate or anything like that. But an additional measure to take, and also non-spawn, is to implement Hotjar on those pages. Hotjar is a heat map tool, and we've actually kind of done a lot of research with it lately internally. And with that, you can actually see where people are clicking or where people are kind of scrolling around. And if people get to your page and they start clicking on stuff that aren't clickable, or that they're kind of just going to the top part and then leaving, that's kind of an indication that maybe it's not very clear to your users what they're supposed to do next.
Don't leave them guessing, right? We've all, most of us, probably the vast majority of people who watch this video, and us, ourselves, have been messing around with websites for years. What's there to know? You're like, go to website, learn some stuff, ask for help or whatever. But it still surprises me to this day that some folks, they need a little help. Guiding people through the process that you want them to take is a good thing. You don't necessarily have to feel like you're treating people like they're dummies, like you don't know what to do. Sometimes there's folks make the mistake of having too many ways that they can reach out. Like, hey, call us and submit a web form, and also like us here and do this thing. You want to make it simple and straightforward. And when you do that, and when you have a clear representation of how you can help based on that problem that this person's coming to you for, it's a no-brainer, right? And that's what you really want. Then they're going to actually take that step. Now, do you get a sale from that? I don't know. I mean, at least you got them to that next level, and that's what that's about.
Cool. This last question here, I'm kind of glad that we've left a good chunk of time for it, because it can have so many answers. We may not even get to everything, but we'll try. Our ads are bringing in calls and emails, but nothing of value. Lots of salesy emails and scams. That one's a huge one. That's something that we have also experienced, that we have done a lot of work to not have it happen. It doesn't happen so much anymore, actually not really much at all, but it can happen quite a bit, and it's a very commonly, a frequently asked question as far as ads. David, did you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so what I was just kind of touching on a moment ago, like, yeah, you get people to take action. They're going through, we can call your funnel, right? So, in the sales process, the marketing process, you have a funnel where people kind of enter the top of that funnel. You want to take them on a journey, ultimately taking the action you need. You'd like them to become a customer or buy something, that sort of deal. You get them to your landing page on your website from clicking the ad. So that's great so far. But depending on how the ad campaign was set up, the language, how the landing page is, you still have this issue or wondering where is it the right kind of customer, right? How much of your marketing effort went into to really pre-qualifying or giving people, this idea. We've used this on a previous chat called the call to inaction, right? So this concept of, making sure people know that, yeah, this is the kind of company to help me, because, even if it's like a plumbing company, right? Well, there's residential plumbers, there's commercial plumbers. If you're somebody with a house and not a business, you probably don't want to be trying to reach out to a commercial plumbing company, because they're not going to be well suited to help you. So what I imagine happens a lot in this kind of scenario, one of them is, if there's nothing of value coming in from those ads, is it's just really poor alignment. The marketing is not honing in there. But then, this other side of it is the salesy stuff and the scams. As sad as it is, there's other companies out there who, I don't know, it's not really sad. I don't want to say that. Let me back up. It's a reality that there's other businesses out there that are trying to sell to other businesses. The B2B space, it's huge, right? I get it all the time. I try to help other businesses. And so one way to find people who can help is searching for those businesses based on something like a keyword that aligns, like commercial plumbers in Denver or whatever, right? And I could find some people I could help with commercial plumbing websites. it might turn out that somebody who is a commercial plumber in Denver is not interested in me receiving sales calls through their advertising, but it could be an easy way to just get in touch with those people quickly because you didn't have a captive audience on that sales cycle. And then maybe you can, you know, talk to the salesperson for the plumbing. It's like, hey, are you getting all the kind of sales you want? Hey, well, no, but you're not helping it at the moment because you're taking up my phone time. So that can happen. Yeah.
And that's something else we've experienced too. And what we did at Denver Day Web was we implemented in-market audiences, which can help kind of target those ads to people with professions or interests that mirror the target audience that we want to have, rather than someone who's going to sell us something. And in-market audiences is it would be, God, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I would have pulled it up, but we're not going to waste the time to do that. It's pretty easy to find once you're in the platform. It's under audiences, just I think in-market audiences. And from there, it'll give you suggestions on like different ways you can find your target audience. Some of them are a little bit vague sounding at first, but there is probably usually a little description for each, describing what the audience is and how and if you should add it or not, if it mirrors your target audience. At the same time, if you had a campaign that did really well and it reached really good potential clients and marketing qualified leads, you can find a way to go in and find those lookalike audiences, and you can actually implement those on multiple campaigns. And that's a really cool way to do that as well. In addition to that, oh, there's so many things we can do for this one. As far as location targeting, that's a huge one. If you strictly work in Denver, you're located in Denver, you only provide HVAC services in Denver, but you're getting a lot of calls from Texas or Illinois. It could just be that you have your location targeting not set up properly. It could be that you have it, if you don't have location targeting on, or there's a weird little thing in Google, and I wrote down exactly what it's called here. But there's
I think I know exactly what you're thinking of, but it's
okay.
a little checkbox when you update those. It's like, do you want it
Yep.
to be the location associated with people who have an affinity or interest in that area versus
I wrote
actually
down
being
the
there?
exact wording because I knew we'd get stuck on this. It would be presence, people in or regularly in your targeted locations. That's the one that you definitely want. And the other one is presence or interest, people in regularly in or who have showed interest in your target location. And Google actually has next to that recommended. However, as as someone who has seen this many times, I would not recommend that if you are doing location targeting, because then it tends to just bring in a lot of leads that are, or a lot of calls that are not actually people in those locations, which can get pretty confusing and can kind of waste a lot of money.
Yeah, if your ads don't speak very clearly, or even like your website, your landing pages throughout that flow about where you're, if you are geographically limited, like let's say you're more of like an in-person kind of service or a local service, and that's not really explained, it's entirely possible that, somebody who travels to Colorado all the time, but actually lives in Austin or something, they commute for work. And so they're thinking about Denver all the time, hey, where am I going to eat when I'm visiting next week or something, right? But then they're back home in Austin, like, oh, sink is stopped up. I need help for a plumber. And it starts looking for a plumber. It's entirely possible that it might show up something for like Denver or something like that, right? I don't know for certain, but there's a lot of different things that go on with Google's algorithm. If you don't have anything in your ad that says, hey, we serve the Denver area only, and that's all we do, they might call you up. It's like, hey, any help? It's like, oh, okay, when I can help you tonight. Is it an emergency? Yeah, I need someone here now. It's like, all right, well, what's your address? 123 Main Street, Austin. So it's going to take me a little while to get there. How bad's the emergency, right? You got to think about that stuff. You're right. There's some nuance to it, but it matters.
Actually, to be fair, or Austin is only about 500 miles away ish. Could be totally wrong on that. But yeah, so that's exactly right. And there's a million situations where that could fail. So again, Google recommends one thing, but I recommend, and I'm sure a lot of other people will recommend, to choose another one. And then the last thing I want to mention for that, and we could literally do a whole chat on this one, is bidding strategy. There's a bunch of different automated bidding strategies that you can choose. But unless your ads have been running for quite some time and Google really has the information to do those things in an automated fashion, I would strongly recommend we do the manual PPC and possibly even enhanced PPC if you have the budget for it. And with that, I think we should probably start wrapping up. We're getting to the end of our time here. But thank you very much for joining us for our digital strategy chat. David, did you have anything else to say before we wrap it up for the day?
No, thanks everybody tuning in and joining in. Look for additional resources and links on our YouTube videos and on our website at denverdata.com. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join our channel on the YouTube channel where these live streams post, but we also share them out to Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find us on all those social media channels for Denver Data Web. And we look forward to you joining us every week, same time, every day, 11:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, right here. Thanks so
All
much.
right.